All right, this should do it. We should be live right now. See where all our patrons are. Going to open my channel on Discord and then get Jordan in here. There we go. Like this. Good evening, patrons. Patron and crew announcements. Add crew. At moderators. Patrons. There, share it. Good. Then I need to make a quick post on Patreon. Get everyone to hop into the Patreon and Kiru chat, and then we should be all good to go. Hey Jordan.
Hey, what's up?
How you feel, man? You ready for this?
Yeah, I thought I was concerned we weren't meeting because it said half an hour before for the meetup thing, and then I was just sitting around.
Yeah, I get it. Hey Squire, what's up, man? And so Project Strife Q&A, we are live right now. Gonna post that on Patreon. We are right now. Are there specific topics you would like to discuss for Strife? We're gonna be recording this and then like posting it to Patreon afterwards for people who miss this on live stream.
Right.
And I just wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I think like some things, the good things, the topic are just basic themes, just the overall story. Not going into anything specific, but I have like basically a log line just to get people know what to anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
So just like a very basic synopsis. Maybe just a little bit about the actual process of how it's gonna go, just so people can expect like just that transparency in production that like the patrons are gonna be expecting, and also to realistically give them realistic expectations of what the final product that's gonna be delivered is gonna be like. And then yeah, just open up the questions from there.
Alright, sounds good. Patreon for dropping with voice projection on Discord. So are we on for a meeting tomorrow about Strife?
It looks like nobody else has really responded, but I think everybody's pretty much free at that time.
Cool.
If I look at the little when to meet thingy sent tomorrow's Sunday.
Do make sure that you tell everyone like when they specify a time for a meeting, like to be very specific, because noon does not mean the same thing across different times, right?
That's like one of the first things I'm gonna like
so you have to
cover. Just like, hey guys, time zones. We're dealing with international production here.
Yeah, you have to basically consider that. So the biggest time zone conversion we're often doing is the one from European CET to either Eastern time and like Central Standard, so Chicago time, basically.
Yeah.
And the overlap windows would be about 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Are the same as 4 p.m. through to 7 p.m., which are like reasonable hours to have a meeting.
Gotcha.
I can always like change the calendar up for you guys, like wake up early or do a late meeting, but I need to know in advance because I need to like shift some things around.
Absolutely.
But
no, we'll do that for sure.
Which actually reminds me, I don't think I have my yeah, it's actually not. Can you say something, Jordan?
Hello.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Recorded.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's all like also picking up my system audio because there's always audio mixing on a live stream is always kind of weird. I need to pop into my lights here and then do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Alright. Hey there, Squire.
Hey,
What's up, man? How you doing?
being okay. So, that's getting on that.
Mm-hmm. Looks like nobody else is joining. They might join later, but if only a small amount of people joins up, we'll simply continue this, and I'll be asking you some of the questions that I have, so we can record them for our patrons, and then I can put it up as a little video later. How does that sound, Jordan?
Sounds good.
All right. I'm actually gonna pull up. I'm not screen sharing right now, but I could switch to my screen share elements. If you want to show anything, just let me know. I'll pull up the internal divided states Miro mood board that we have.
Will do.
It's kind of slow now. There's so much stuff there.
Yeah, we need to. The problem is I have so many mirror boards, guys. I've got 3 mirror boards for my personal D&D games, so I have a special account for that. I'm doing the board game with a friend, and we have another mirror board for that. I am doing the flag maker thing, which is also a mirror board with another company. So I feel like a lot
going on there.
Yeah, and I think the biggest drawback of Miro right now is that it doesn't have version control, or at least not in a free version, right? So it would be good to have hey Douglas, what was that thing that we said like 3 months ago? And then we like being able to go back 3 months and be like, yeah, right. What were we adding like around that time? And it doesn't have that right now.
We can review versions that we had previously and dissect them basically.
Yeah. Have questions for Jordan? Let us know. I'm actually going to. Can you guys pop up video? And
Yes, absolutely.
I cannot activate video because I'm already, but I'm gonna have the patron and crew chat on my main monitor so you guys have video up. I need screen share. Okay, so I'm bottom left. You guys are main, and if I check that, it should be. All right, I'm gonna. Can you just give me a quick blah 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 so I can mix audio on my end?
Hello, my name is Jordan Pennell. I am the director of the project Strife, which is the live action short film in the Kaiserreich universe.
All right, I'm gonna listen to that back. I'm gonna see if that audio
Can
is
you
fine.
just
give me a quick blah 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 so I can mix audio on my end?
Hello, my name is Jordan Pennell.
Okay, that works. And I'm just gonna pop up your volume with like 130. Douglas, I'm gonna pop you up to like 115-ish. That should do it. Actually, I can move myself. All right. I think we can start the Q&A here. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, cats. To basically, we're all over the place right now, time zone wise. I just had a few new patrons join, who are
Sorry,
from New Zealand.
my antivirus is being stubborn again. Hang on.
Yeah, no worry, man. So I am joined today by Jordan Pennell, who will be the director of the Divided States.
There you go. Is it working?
It's not working for me, Douglas. So Jordan, who will be directing what we are calling Divided States Strife, Project Strife simply. It will be a live action short movie set in Chicago, filmed in Chicago by a crew from Chicago. I'm saying all of that right, Jordan. So 20-minute short, dealing with themes of the Second American Civil War. And actually, Jordan, I would like you to take it from there and just explain to us like what is the base story of Strife.
Yeah, absolutely. So Strife, the basic premise is it's really the themes are encapsulating the real central conflict at the heart of the Second American Civil War, which is this notion of strife. The word strife, it applies to a lot of things. There's familial strife, political strife, social strife, all these elements really combining, and at the heart of it is families families being divided, and we get this sort of idea from the first American Civil War, the very popular phrase "brother against brother," and we're really hitting home with that notion in Strife. So at the heart of it is a family who is being divided again around these ideological lines, and that's really what we wanted to sort of heighten and focus on. So you're going to see this family stuck in their house and pretty much arguing out, hey, what do we do about this civil war as battle rages around them? And we kind of highlight each of the ideologies and not necessarily their pros and cons, but like why someone would choose to fight for those ideologies.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this correctly, and we've discussed ideas like these about as early as we started talking about Strife, is that it definitely feels like it will be a much more intimate project as opposed to the animatic Westward, which will be a little more like big set pieces, Americana, travel. What can you tell me about that, Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. Divided States Westward is much more of a grandiose set piece. It's an adventure, whereas Strife is much more contained. It's much more focused. It's much more character driven. And it really just focuses on those interpersonal relationships in the family.
All right, cool. Can you tell me a bit about your characters? Because I've obviously read the script. I also put it on the Patreon post yesterday. So you have a couple of basically you have relatives and siblings who basically develop loyalties for different factions within, and that's what you're playing as the main driver of the plot. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of center around this like really typical, almost stereotypical like American nuclear family. So there's the mom, the dad, there's a daughter and a son, and the mother, she kind of tries to play the peacemaker, and she tries to get everybody to stick together as a family above all else. Whereas all the other members support the three big sides in the conflict. So the father, he supports the status quo in the federal government. The son, he's a supporter of Huey Long and the American Union state, and he's kind of got that like rebellious streak in him, whereas the daughter is a supporter of the CSA and is kind of that prototypical, stereotypical rebel girl we hear so much about in the game and in the Kaiserreich universe.
All right, so there's a few cool parallels with what we have in the animatic. You also have a female protagonist. So what we said before is we'll make her very different from Emily to make sure there's no confusion.
Yeah. Fun story about that when I first came to you with it and we were talking about it, and then I learned some details about the Divided States. We remarked on the similarities, like, oh, these characters are almost exactly the same.
Yeah, we actually hadn't announced the animatic at that point, and I was like, hey, you're doing like a girl with different loyalties from her family. I'm doing that as well. And I think the reason for that is because if you start thinking about that team, the Divided States, we end up in similar places, because we start thinking about, okay, what could be an interesting like drama set piece in a second American Civil War in the Kaiserreich world? Family, like what if family, or friends, and they have different loyalty. You know, that's sort of the way that affects families, that affects friends. I think is an extremely interesting thing to explore, and I'm actually very glad that we get Strife together with the animatic to explore that further. And I actually hope, and we've been discussing this as well, is to have other pieces of smaller content as well in the peripheral of all these things. We will all call them Divided States projects and just give them a different subtitle to have different storylines. Do you know what year Strife is set in specifically?
Strife is set very early in the Civil War. I was thinking 1937, while the borders are still being defined, the front lines are still being defined. There's still a lot of conflict and there's battles raging, but it's kind of in that nebulous phase where there's not really a set front line. And so that's actually where the main conflict of the story comes in, where the family is like, shit's hitting the fan, the battle's heading to home. We need to decide what to do, because armies are converging and we need to get the hell out of here. Which way are we going? North, south, increased.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Becomes a very important point once you
so
are.
like that stage of the Civil War where like there's nothing defined yet. Everything's in chaos.
Mhm.
Everything's going sideways, basically, right?
Absolutely. It's kind of that like early chaotic moment where nothing is set and defined. I don't know. My favorite thing to compare it to is kind of like, in like a zombie movie or fiction, like whenever like things that like that tipping point. Like I know it's not the real movie or book or whatever, but the World War Z Brad Pitt movie where they're kind of just walking through the streets and then all of a sudden, oh my god, everything hits the fan. That's like my favorite moment and that sort of thing. And so that's what I really wanted to bring to the
compare
story.
to history, I would say it was like the period from 1860 to December 1860 to about March 7, 1861 during the First American Civil War, where everything just seems to go, this state's doing this state's doing that, Louisiana raided the armories, that type of like, no one knows what the hell is going on, yet we know that something's going really bad.
Yeah.
And then when April hit, shit hit the fan, and there we go, Civil War.
Or to put in the mod perspective, once all the different factions separate from the US and the mod and you have that build-up time, that's kind of where things are happening. As right as like the deadline looms and then boom, fighting starts.
I think there's definitely an interesting. I actually visited a Civil War museum in North Carolina while I was there. A very beautiful museum, by the way. It's downtown Raleigh. There was this whole piece about basically what happened between the actual start of the conflict that led up to the Civil War and then the point of which where the Confederate States were declared and then North Carolina joined them slightly later on. And there's a lot of gray area between all of these areas where it's not exactly certain how things are going to go. And this was especially true in North Carolina because for a long time they thought about joining the Union but did end up joining the Confederate States. And that's definitely something we should do more lore of. Like in that specific area, like what happens when the several states do solo things, which is probably the most probable scenario in a conflict like an American Civil War, is that the state governments are the first to act because they're like the most direct, the most local, and only then would you get things like the combined syndicates and the American Union state forming. I think that's definitely fascinating. Segueing into like the actual production, the practical stuff of it. Can you tell them a little bit more about who will be working on the project, like who's shooting it, what's your location?
Absolutely. So we're based in Chicago, in the city of Chicago and surrounding metropolitan area. And so that means we're very lucky we have a lot of access to the sort of things we need. Because at the end of the day, in its simplest terms, this is a period piece. And so Chicago has been kind of going through a bit of a boom of production, just TV and film production. And so there's a lot of that infrastructure that's been building up. And so that's really good for us. So we have access to things like costumes and period authentic vehicles, which is very exciting. And a lot of just like historical buildings. At my first go around for the script, like the entire thing was set in a basement, and it was basically inspired by the basement at my house at the time because it really just fit the bill perfectly. I was like, wow, this is really cool looking. And then over time it kind of evolved and we see more of the house. And we have access to all those things just around if we want to shoot on location, or if it calls to go into studio, we have access to studios over here that we can use. And my team, I've been working with them. We all went to film school together, and so we know each other. We know like our workflows and such. And I mean, these guys, I've worked with them. I trust them. I believe in them, and I hope you guys will come to do that too.
Well, you're definitely the film crew that I select personally. So we've been courted by, I would say, 3 or 4 film crews up to this point. But when you guys showed up, you were definitely the first ones to bring an extremely detailed and practical, like here's a script, here's who's working on, and that's basically what I wanted to see. What the other film crew was a little less clear, and I feel like if you want us to do fun production, we do need a very clear idea of like what's the practicality, like what's the box you're setting for yourself, so that we can do it on an indie movie budget, because we are an indie cinema. We do not have infinite amounts of money, right? So we're doing this very limited short with a limited amount of actors, and then I saw it and I said like, okay, this is practical. And I told Jordan then it's like I'll give you guys a decision later, but here's this animatic, you know, and I'm looking for a writer. And then Jordan and Carolyn and Sith, is that, what was his name?
Still.
Who is that?
Still? Nicholas
Sill, yeah,
Sill.
Nicholas Sill. Nicholas,
Yeah.
right. So they started working on, they wrote a lot of our episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 content that we have right now. And, you know, I developed a strong belief in your, I would say, your work ethic. And I think that's the most important thing. If I believe in someone's work ethic, I think the rest will follow naturally. So we are doing a meeting tomorrow to discuss production stuff. And then, you know, we're off to the races. Do you have an idea on when you would like to start production?
Pre-production is going to start basically as soon as that first meeting tomorrow. That's pre-production officially begins. And so what that means is we're pretty much going to be planning everything out. There's a lot of work that goes into making a live action short film, even something 20 minutes long, even something 5 minutes long. And so we're pretty much going to be planning out and finding out what we need, who's going to get it, how much time do they have to go get it, and how much money do they get to go get it.
Makes sense.
And so we're estimating principal photography is probably going to be sometime in late August, early September, maybe late September at the latest. And then we hope to have a finished product delivered by November.
Yeah, okay.
Jordan, can I ask a question? Will there be a problem with regards to doing this in the middle of a pandemic?
Oh, right, the pandemic. I forgot about that.
That has been that has been one of our biggest priorities. We have a couple members on the crew who are especially concerned just because they're more vulnerable. And so the state of Illinois has a lot of precautions put in place, and thankfully the state of Illinois is doing remarkably well for the situation we're all in. The state has been doing very well, and so we're very happy about that. And they've actually been opening up productions carefully and slowly throughout the state and the city. So we're going to be working closely with the Chicago and Illinois Film Office to ensure that, you know, we're following all the precautions that we need to take so that our production can be safe for everybody involved. And at the end of the day, we're very confident that we can keep people safe and healthy, because that's our first priority as filmmakers is safety, because that can be dangerous.
Yeah, it would make sense. My state's been doing really well when it comes to things, but we have to be careful. For example, unfortunately, due to the state of Victoria is going through an outbreak right now, so we got our restrictions moved back to August 1st. So, and as a musician, because you can see my guitars in the background, I can't gig still because all the places are closed.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we have to be careful, but that's, I just want to put because, you know, you can't exactly group a bunch of people in a small space without, you know, concerns.
We're going to make sure everybody is safe and healthy, and we're going to be taking all the precautions necessary, like wiping down all the gear at the beginning and middle of the day, whenever. Thankfully, sets are already pretty, I don't want to use the word segregated, but kind of delineated in who touches what. Like, for example, camera only gets touched by the director of photography, and his first AC, second AC, and such. And even then, we're probably not going to have a second AC at the end of the day. We're going to try and keep this as a small, tight production.
Yeah, because I think because the production is that small, I don't think it's not like we need hundreds of people to play these roles. We're talking about maximum, what's that, between 10 and 20 people if we're...
most likely, yeah. I think 20 people maximum.
Yeah. So I mean, we can have barbecues with 50 people here in Belgium right now. So that's basically what we're doing. Like, it's like an afternoon with a bunch of people. But yeah, obviously, I'm not sure what that's your job, the practicality of the whole COVID prevention thing. I think I will not be coming to Chicago, so I've been oscillating back and forth on this. Normally, in like a normal time, I would say, oh yeah, cool, I'll be on an airplane, I'll be there to help you guys out. But especially in Belgium, the travel advice would be like just not go. Like no Belgian should leave Belgium now. Everyone should stay in their own country as much as possible. And then there's also the high risk of like foreign affairs blocking flights, which is happening right now on, like because of local outbreaks. like your flight can get canceled, like it could be a whole mess. So I'm just gonna say I'm not coming to Chicago for this shoot, and I hope that like after this we're doing the next project, and then I can finally come to Chicago and meet you guys in better times.
Absolutely.
Adding on to Vincent's point, even if I could go, the government of Australia has issued an official travel ban for the entire world. I can't get out. I'm an Australian citizen, so yeah, basically I can't leave. Even if I could get to whatever, I can't leave because the government has blocked me. I can't, you know.
Yeah, I think it's true for most countries right now. So we're allowed to do like local, like for example, we can go to the Netherlands, which is like, you know, upstate basically. But I think
what's for me, because I'm in a state where they closed the border entirely. It's a hard border, so I can't I can't even get to the other half of the country too. But,
yeah, I mean, you know, it makes sense, you know, considering circumstances that this kind of fairly strict border control like really does help. So like we should be preventing international flights. We should be preventing mass travel, because the more we can segregate groups right now, and that's not a beautiful word, but like the easier it is to control and maintain outbreaks of the virus. And it's an exponential thing. Like if 5 people get infected, they will infect 25. If 25 get infected, they infect like 500. It's like a whole mess. Like I'm hoping for like 2021 to be like, you know, some pharma guy is gonna come on TV and says we have the COVID vaccine. 2 years later, like all problems are solved, and we're gonna be like, hey guys, you know, all the guys, let's fly out somewhere, you know, let's do a big meetup and like celebrate this fact. But yeah, the world has changed, and everything like that we do, we are international. It's gonna be a lot of talking heads on webcam for the foreseeable future. But yeah, we can deal with that. You know, we were prepared. We have continued to forge ahead on all our projects. So I'm actually really happy with the way things like we've been dealing with the COVID crisis. To segue back into Strife, do you have actors in mind, actresses for your main roles?
So we're gonna be doing an sort of open casting type deal. I have a couple actors in mind that I'd like to reach out to first, and of course they're gonna audition for the roles to see if they're just right for it. That's just the process I like to go about. But I'm confident that we're gonna be able to get good actors who are able to deliver good performances, because Chicago is a big theater town. We have a lot of aspiring and professional theater actors, so we'll definitely have a good talent pool to draw on, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple people in mind for just smaller roles that I'd like to just see, just as, you know, that's how the industry works.
Yeah, I'd like to, as I said, what I'd like to do with you as well, and I wanted to send you a DM today, but actually we've been cycling all day. It's not that I've been busy, and my girlfriend was like, hey Vincent, the weather's so beautiful, let's go cycling. So that's what we did. But what I wanted to, if I'd been actually productive today, I would have sent you this DM. I was like, why don't we do the green screen stuff actually before before Strife? I'm not sure, like, what are you doing right now? Are you available?
Right now I'm kind of in a planning sort of thing. I'm helping my girlfriend move right now.
Yeah.
Packing up boxes and stuff. But I mean, the end of this month, like the latter half, I'm going to be working, and probably on Strife, the Divided States, and the little promo thing that we talked about, finding out the logistics for that.
Well, I would say like if you have some time here and there, I think that's something you can squeeze in before then, and then you can just send me the invoice, and it's going to be like a paid gig for you going up on Strife. Because I think the sooner we have that, the sooner we can start building up the promotional campaign and introduce the idea to the channel that we are going to do a live action. We're actually becoming Kaiserreich Cinema. You know, the cinema part of that, you know, was and I think the sooner we can introduce that, it would actually be good to build up the Strife. So we have Chomsky releasing later coming Friday, which is a documentary series, which is kind of like real live action, but it's all archival footage. And then I'm going to start thinking about like what is like August going to look like, August, September for us, the late summer area. Anyhow, now let us assume, and I'm actually completely certain that this is going to happen, that Strife is going to be a massive success. Like, what is Strife 2 going to look like? What's your next move?
So assuming Strife is a huge, enormous gangbuster success, the idea would be to expand on that sort of idea and world. I know we talked about sort of this kind of like anthology-esque use of the divided states as like a property, a brand. And so the idea is go bigger. We make a bigger, hopefully maybe even feature-length film in the Kaiserreich Divided States universe. Just because we're based in the US, so it's easier for us to do US-centric stories. Or maybe hoping everything calms down with COVID, we can branch out to other areas of the world. Maybe we do something in Belgium. Maybe we do something in France, in Germany. Basically just expand the Kaiserreich universe and the Kaiser Cat cinema universe.
So what we were considering on doing before COVID hit is we have something in Belgium which is fairly unique. We have a fully functional German Type 7 U-boat interior, which is in a warehouse in Antwerp, like literally 30 minutes drive away from here, and it was built for a movie called Torpedo. You should watch it. It's actually really cool. It's like Inglourious Basterds but with a bunch of Belgians. With the amazing line, and it actually had a bunch of top line actors, and I was emailing with the guys who did the production there, with the amazing line of like, it's hard to translate. In Dutch it would be like, tactiek, wij maken moffen af. Dat is strategisch genoeg. And it's like strategy, we kill la boche. La boche is like a
it's the French word for crowd.
Yeah, it's like it's a French word for the Nazi basically. And then we kill Bush. That's enough strategy for us. And that's basically it's about this whole crew of like Belgian. I'm not sure what I haven't seen the movie yet. I should say it was out of cinema by the time I'm gonna rent it. Who have to steal a German submarine and then get it to I think to the US for some reason, because it has a captured German guy in it, and it's like Belgian commandos doing it, and it's really funny. And they built this whole really cool set, and now they're actually renting it, and it's not being used for film right now, but it's being used for like company parties and stuff. And I asked them, I called these guys up, and I was like, hey, we're doing YouTube content, and we're interested in actually doing a project which would be something like, I was thinking a Middle Africa crew, so basically Middle Africa in Asia fighting Japan or something like that. You know, something that incorporates a lot of these elements. And we have reenactors and actors who were interested in that project, and the budget was very reasonable. So in the post-COVID era, that's definitely something I think would be really cool if we could like fly you guys out and then have you come do the set. But that's definitely a much more expensive project. But
That's the future.
Yeah. So what you just said is indeed we're thinking of like using the Divided States as a collective of stories about the Second American Civil War, because I think the Divided States, I made a little logo for it and it has like this nice ring to it. It's very defined. We can do comics, we could do audio, books, as we've always done, live action, and then motion comic things like we're trying with Westward, basically, the animatic. But yeah, do you have an idea, like if you would continue the storyline, if you would like to explore other people's stories?
Well, I've actually been working on a script to be planned as a feature, which would basically be, I sort of envision it as a cross between Saving Private Ryan meets what's that German movie about the group of friends in World War II?
Unsere Mutter, unsere Vater. It was called Generation War in the US, I think, which I think was a really weird translation.
Especially because we have the movie Generation Kill, which is
so the actual translation would be Our Mothers and Our Fathers, and I think that's a much more poignant.
So it's kind of a cross.
Sounds like a weak title, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
So it's kind of this a blend between those two, where it's this group of. I'm not decided on the relation between all the characters, but the idea is basically they're on two different sides of the Civil War, and then they eventually find each other, get together, and they're like, I don't know. I'm not decided. Again, it's a work in progress, but it's a feature to be shot.
I just need a quick minute to swap out the battery on my camera. Jordan, can you like give us a little bit more info while I'm stepping out of the room?
Oh, boy. Okay. Okay.
I'll be
Well,
back,
again,
in,
this
back in
is
a second. I'm walking
very
away now.
preliminary, kind of a all right, kind of a work in progress. But the basic idea was, so these two friends who grow up together and then move apart for one reason or another. They basically, in the Civil War, they get drafted on different sides. I'm not convinced on having them being strong, having a strong ideological belief. So they basically just be stuck on their side, and we really just explore more so kind of the politics and beliefs of the soldiers on the front lines. So it's kind of just like, why does somebody fight for the CSA or the AU? And we explore that through the lens of these two friends who are fighting on either side, and kind of learning as we do why these people fight. And that's the basic idea. I don't really have a solid story yet because I've been focused on the divided states and Strife. But that's the basic idea.
Hey guys, I just wanted to.
So this is based off the quotes are from brother versus brother, father versus son, sibling versus sibling type thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to interrupt you guys real quick. I wanted to introduce Lawrence. He's my best friend, many years. He actually can't hear me because they're on my headset. But we're making a board game together, so this is something. It's not like Kaiserreich related anything, but it's just something really cool. We're super into Gloomhaven. I'm not sure if you guys know that game. And this is what we're spending weekend. So he's actually here. It's like 11 past 30. we were working on that board game. Alright, Hesa Toerdam is in the Alright, man. I'll see you like League of Legends on Mondays probably. Alright, cool, man. See you next time. Alright, back to Strife. He was still downstairs talking to the old girlfriend. So I didn't catch anything of what you just said. So you'll have to give me the gist.
Basically, I think he was recounting how he'll introduce the dynamic of brother versus brother in that type of project he was mentioning. I think. Yeah.
All right. Cool. I think definitely that's a strong narrative for us to do with, and I'm very passionate about the divided states, and I think it's what's going to be the tip of the spear, as I said, of Kaiserreich Cinema in 2020 going into 2021. I'm especially happy that people like you show up, Jordan, like people who have enormous amount of creativity and and also an enormous amount of practicality to it, because it is not just about having an idea, it's also about having the grit because it's really hard, guys, really hard to like see something through to the end. Like it requires an almost dispassionate sort of to step away from your excitement and realize that like by the time you finish this, like you're not gonna be excited anymore. It's just gonna be work. All right, it's a full-time job. It's
Absolutely
5 days a week, 7 days a week. Like do whatever's required. So you can be passionate about something, that's amazing, but you also need to have the practicality and like the willpower to see it through. And I think, Jordan, that I see that with you and with your crew. So I'm super happy to have you guys working with us.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
It's like creating music. Yeah, you have to put in the work. Otherwise, if you keep revolving yourself, it goes like nothing gets done. Yeah. I'm not
a musician, right? So I wish I could I'd always love to be able to play guitar. But it's like I know I work with a lot of musicians. Like the people working for Kaiserreich Cinema as well, doing music. Those are people I used to work with as a graphic designer back in the day. Now, like these guys would go in and like they do a jam session and they get like 3 or 4. Douglas is gonna make more sense to you. Like they get 3 or 4 good chords in, and I would like hammer on them, like work on those chords, and then try every single possible combination until they had something that like had flow, had soul. So it's really fascinating, I think, to where is the difference between like an abstract concept of hey we should do that then loses steam, and something that actually makes it through to the end. That's what fascinates me, because I love seeing things grow.
And the failure rate for that type of stuff is pretty high. For example, my band, we had to go through like 3 or 4 concepts before we can get to something solid. And
definitely.
And it's like the same type of work in fan fiction as well as type of like kinds of cat, because I think I joined the team as the researcher, we went through like 3 to 4 different variations of what the timeline was for like Westward before we settled on the whole scientist goes on a road trip.
Yeah, and it's actually Jordan and his team and Douglas, they're all working on Westward as well. Westward is the name we're now giving the animatic, as both of these projects will be called The Divided States with a subtitle. So The Divided States Strife is live action, The Divided States Westward will be animatic content. And I think the back and forth between this crew was also really good. And it's how we came up. I think Carolyn came up with the, hey, what if the German scientist was like a con man? We think that's a super interesting hook. We want to explore that further. But yeah, I think that we now have the basis for a lot of extremely interesting projects. 2020, 2021, and now it's really just about like we're locking cinema down and we're like just putting work every day to make this happen. And it's just judging our patron growth, I think we're on the right track. Like ever since we announced the Divided States, this team, our patronship went from I think we were at 225 for a long time, for like a year, and now we're at 800. So that's close to 4xing in a very short amount of time. So there's definitely a lot of people who would come in and who see the potential, and also the fact that we're now doing cameos. Like, people love that stuff. So I have a poster back here with a bunch of cameos, and I hope to go further in that, not with Strife right now, but with like the next shoot. If we go in a beyond COVID era, I would love to have like, hey, let's all go there and like do activities around. That's what I would do basically. I would come to the shoot. I would let you guys work on the shoot, but I would like take the patrons or anyone who shows up. We could do like a tour of Chicago. We could like do a set visit. We could fly Rachel, for example. We could fly her out from Canada. We could bring her to Chicago and have her record. And you mentioned Generation War before. They have this really cool scene where one of the friends becomes a singer, and she records a hit song, Mein Kleines Herz, I think. And we could do that with Rachel. We could like, if we could like get access to a real cool opera room or something classical, film some of the songs we've done with her, like that have been super popular. Like Wayfaring Stranger is really close to 250,000 views, which is, I think, the best performing music we've done so far. So yeah, I'm definitely very excited about this entire concept. I think it
also helps that the growth is filled by the fact that we're tied in with the Kaiserreich community in a whole, and we communicate with them based on projects we do, and it just feeds the lot. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that Kaiserreich Cinema has the opportunity of becoming the sort of focus of what I would call the inherent community of the Kaiserreich, of the larger Kaiserreich community. Inherent creativity of the larger Kaiserreich community.
Like the fan fiction part of Kaiserreich, because there's usually like 3 types of Kaiserreich. There's the memes, then there's the posters, and then there's the us types, basically.
And I actually hope to, and this is something I've been thinking more about the past few weeks, is what I would love is for us to find a way to incorporate like people who do fan fiction in our content in some capacity. The problem there is a budgetary problem, because there's much more, like I get a lot of people asking me to write for Kaiserreich Cinema, many more than we can fund projects for right now. So I was thinking it would be cool if we could do something like, people submit written scripts, and then we turn them into audiobooks in some capacity, and the community votes, and like we have systems and levers that we can do where we can, like, I cannot simply give someone money, but I can send them free merch. Like, that's something that we can do. Sending someone that money directly as a company is problematic, because there's like, legally I cannot write that down as a cost. I'm not allowed to like send company money out to someone, because that's considered tax evasion, right? So basically everyone who does work for Kaiserreich Cinema either gets paid from my personal account, which is not good for us because I cannot expense it from the actual company, or like you have to be invoicing, right? They have to be companies or like sole traders, which is fairly easy to do in most states. But there's definitely a lot of people who are below that line where they're like, they would like to do one script, one project, and we currently do not have the environment for them to basically develop that in. And I think there's definitely gems there. So yeah, that's like one of the, I think a lot about this stuff. Like, what does it mean to make content and be a collective of artists in the way that we do it? Like, we're online, we're working on all these social channels. I definitely think there's a way to do this that is inclusive, extremely rewarding, and very creative for everyone. We just have to find the right systems and the right presentation, basically. And that is an ongoing process. To segue back to Strife, I have not gotten any questions from chat. I think I covered all my main questions. Are there specific things you wanted to say about Strife, Jordan?
About Strife specifically, not really.
Yeah.
I think we covered it.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that, at least for me, the biggest thing for all these projects for me is that it's very much for the Kaiserreich community. I mean, I came from there first. I was a fan before I was, before I even went to film school. I was a fan of Kaiserreich, and Kaiserreich Cinema especially really just kind of inspired me to, I mean, kind of come out and propose and pitch this to you. I'm not involved, but I follow a lot of what happens on the subreddit and the Discord and whatnot. And most of all, I just want to make something that the fans are happy and proud of, and something that we can grow as a community and brand that we can use to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Douglas, do you have any follow-up questions to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add on. I actually joined Kaiserreich about a couple months ago. Actually, I know one of the developers for the mod, actually, on one of the other Discords I'm on, the Lithuanian Organist. He convinced me to join Kaiserreich, not as a fan, but then I found Kaiserreich Cinema, and then I started writing fan fiction for it, and suddenly when actually, it's kind of funny, because I actually joined the project based on a technicality, because Vincent posted an image of a gun, right, for the old
Yeah, that's right, the cult.
And I said, because I know guns, and he said, oh, actually, Vincent, your gun is wrong, and we corrected it, and Vincent DM'd me and said, oh, you're very actually very researched in this. You want to join the project? He said, oh, yeah, sure. And now I'm here, actually. It's actually really funny, actually.
That happens quite often, and we actually have a massive amount of resources available to us within our own community, and I'm always looking at our own community first, people who are on our Discord. Douglas came to us that way, and I actually think that we will do more projects like that. For example, right now I'm tapping one of our Swedish patrons to do the voiceover for World of Kaiserreich Sweden. No promises, because obviously, first off, I want to choose the right voice for the job first. But if there are people in our own community, like, definitely, like, you can be a patron for a while, you can be crew for a while. Like, these things shift naturally around, and I think that's good. We should allow everyone to sort of find the position they want within Kaiserreich Cinema, whether that is crew, whether that is supporting patron, whether that is a combination of these things. Like, that's all good for me. But yeah, I think that we have covered basically everything that we want for Strife. And I think I will leave the cut the live stream off there. I'm going to put a recording up on Patreon, so everyone who has missed this live stream can then re-access it. It's going to be unlisted, obviously. This is a secret video. Do not share this information anywhere. We are not talking publicly about doing the live action. We will only be talking publicly the moment it's made and we actually have a release date on it. And at that point, Jordan, I would love to invite you to a public live stream. So we're gonna call everyone out, and that's gonna be a big one, so we can get up to like 150 to 200 people on those. But I wanted to make sure that we did this in a more intimate setting first, with our patron community first.
All right.
Sounds so
good.
It makes sense, yeah.
So Douglas and Jordan, thank you for joining me today, this morning for you guys.
Actually, it's 5, nearly 6 a.m. here.
Yeah, that's right. You're always. I'm
on the other side of the world, so.
Yeah. So early morning, late evening, Kaiserreichs are all over the world. So I want to thank you guys for your time. We're gonna cut the live stream off here, and I will for that. So I'm going to turn to our patrons. As usual, I will be posting our weekly State of the Cinema video on Monday, where I will tell you what's happening on Monday. But basically, what's happening next week is a lot of work on Chomsky, more work on the animatic, and the first meetings for Strife. So I think that's probably the three things that will define next week. I also have, oh yeah, I'm going to commission Hussar, so Hussar Corps, to do a Legion Rabe concept art for us with like 8 or 9 characters from different branches of the American Legion, like American Expeditionary Force, and we'll have patrons do cameos for that.
Hussar, he creates some amazing art.
Yeah, he does really cool.
Yeah, like
So
he does all the factions plus a couple of others, and it's really realistic. And I really love this Germany's the Asian one.
Yeah, so I've been trying to tap Hussar for a while now to do comic book together. So we're both French. And comic books are a big thing in. Well, I'm not French. I'm Belgian, but okay, whatever. So I was like, hey man, we should.
Tintin,
yeah. Like we should do BD, a bande dessinée, which is comic book. We should do a BD project together in Kaiserreich World. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of available time right now. He has a full-time job as a historical illustrator. But like I'm telling him, like, you know, like my door's open, like whenever you wanna go deep, go big on this, because we have Project Reclamation, which is a comic book project. I would love for him to draw on that, and I think his art style is perfect for the job. But anyway, we have a very wide range of things that could happen, but it is going to depend on budget. It is going to depend on who is available at any given time. So basically, we're just looking at all the available options, and what we've discussed right now is what's happening, what's practical at this point. I think that is all the info that I can share for tonight, and then I will give you guys an update on Monday, and we will leave it there. How do you guys feel about that?
Sounds good.
All right.
It'd be great. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
I'm going to cut the live stream in a couple of seconds. I'll be on Discord for a couple more minutes, you know, just for a little post chat with you guys. So patrons, thank you for all the support. So all these projects we are discussing, those are projects that you are making possible due to your monthly contributions. Don't forget to check your patron posts regularly for the cameo calls to see like what scenes are open to have your cameo painted in, and as well for the monthly news update, weekly news updates that our patrons are always getting. That is all for today, and thank you all for joining, and until next time. At that point, I need to do just a second. Always getting. That is all for today, and thank you all for joining, and until next time.